I'm going to look up and I have to say something, and I don't want to embarrass her. And the Lord spoke to me and said, I sent her here to you today because I wanted to show you what it looks like to be satisfied. And I looked back up at her, and the Lord said, isn't she beautiful? Let me show you what it looks like to be beautiful. She's got mayonnaise and mustard coming out of her mouth, and she's smiling at you, interested in you. And you know what, Jason? She's old, and she doesn't care. She's just enjoying her sandwich. She's old, she doesn't care if you think she's beautiful or not. She's just enjoying her sandwich. And you know what? She's beautiful because she's satisfied. Are you satisfied? It's amazing. I see the two grandfathers and grandmothers in my family and my children, which are their grandchildren, and they all get each other, you know? They all have like the same way. And it's like all of us in between that age, we screw up everything. But the 70 and 80-year-olds and the 5-year-olds, they can change the world because they're satisfied. With very little, they're satisfied. It's like one doesn't know any better and the other one knows way too much. Or way too well. And see, Peter, remember, he denies Jesus. And he definitely feels shame. And he sees Jesus the first time, and what does Jesus ask him? Asks him, Peter, do you love me? What I really saw all of a sudden that day was that the Lord started showing me. See, Jason, I was with Peter for a long time, and I was trying to show him not to live according to the system of man and to be satisfied by man, but he just couldn't get it. In fact, you see it with Peter. He's just like me and you. If Jacob was the rock of the Old Testament, Peter was the rock of the New. And it's like God gave us that, not because they were major strengths, but because of all their weaknesses. He showed us what we were probably going to be like and what our nature is going to be. We're just like Jacob and we're just like Peter. And so he's totally trying to find satisfaction in the world, so much so that, remember, Paul and Peter ended up having a big old fight about that because Peter was trying to please the Jews and placate to their religion. Now listen, he was a man pleaser. And what Jesus said to Peter was, Peter, do you love me? You know what he was asking him, I believe? Are you satisfied yet? Are you satisfied running after the fear of man yet? Because I have something that I need for you to do. I need you to feed my sheep. And what I'm looking for is a generation that could actually be pleased with what I tell you, that I'm pleased with you, that I love you. But do you believe it yet, Peter? But see, what Peter was doing was he was coming there ashamed with his sin, looking for Jesus once again to say, I still love you, Peter. It's okay, Peter. But Jesus said, enough. I'm not going to say that anymore. What I'm telling you, Peter, is I'm asking you the question now. Peter, do you love me? That's the real question. The real question isn't whether I love you. How many times do we do that in the church? Week after week after week, we come with the same garbage and the same sin and the same shame. And we come up here looking for God to say, I love you still. But what Jesus is really asking is, do you love me yet? What he's really asking is, are you satisfied yet? Are you satisfied with what I've said about you? Are you satisfied with my blessing over your life? And are you dissatisfied with running after the pleasure of man? Even if it looks spiritual. Even if it looks religious. Even if it promises you salvation. Are you dissatisfied with that enough to come and love me? You see, the reality is that if we never become satisfied, we can't love. Do you know why? Because Jesus is calling us to love sheep that aren't going to give us anything back in return. See, Jesus isn't asking us to come and run after a bunch of people. Most of us in this room, there's somebody that we just don't really like that's always around us at church. And we're so busy trying to be satisfied by running after that person that's running away from us, hoping that maybe one day they'll be our friend, that we can't love the one that's running after us, hoping that one day we'll be their friend. And God's looking for a reversal, and the only way that we'll reverse that thing is if we're truly satisfied and we wait long enough to care for those that really need a friend. He's looking for us to go to the nameless and faceless ones. The ones that don't feel like anybody, that aren't somebodies, and tell them that they're somebodies. He's not looking for a generation of people coming out of the church, copying the world, hoping that one day the world will tell us that we're somebody. Because that's predictable. He's looking for a beautiful people. You know what a beautiful person is? A beautiful person is somebody that's so satisfied they can love the nobody because they're not looking for that nobody to make them feel like they're somebody because they're already satisfied in what God says over their life. In all division, in all of sin, in all the stuff that we run after, in all of the hatred, in all of the unforgiveness, is all wrapped up in what we're satisfied by. Peter could not answer the question to feed God's sheep because he was still asking the question. And more than that, God was still asking the question of Peter, do you love me? God's calling us to be like the wind. He's calling us to be like the wind, unpredictable. That the enemy cannot track us because we are unpredictable people. Our music is unpredictable. Our words are unpredictable. Where we show up is unpredictable. Who we talk to is unpredictable. You know what will defeat the enemy? The moment you're running after that person that you want to be satisfied by, and you think long enough in your heart to allow the Spirit of God to say, do you love me? And answer the question to be an answer to the ultimate question, and you turn around, boom, like that. And it shakes the world. Because you turn around and go for the person that nobody else will go for. Mother Teresa shook the world. She could stand at 4'8" or 4'9" in front of, at that time, the most powerful nation in the world and rebuke America for abortion with no fear. Most evangelical Christians today, unless they're standing on a political platform, whimper and cower at social issues of that sort. I said it last night. Martin Luther King, sitting in his room after preaching justice for years. You can find this story in Philip Yancey's book, Soul Survivor. But he finally hears the voice of the Father after they're calling and threatening to kill him and his entire family. And he realizes that fear came over him. And for the first time, he heard the voice of his Father in his kitchen, the Father in heaven, say, Martin, I will never leave you alone.